It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sean Widmer Podcast. Welcome to your favorite 15-minute podcast that started in 2005. We're actually going to try to stick again for our third podcast in a row to that format, the 15-minute format. Some people really like it. This has been a feedback week for the podcast, and I've had a couple people who I love feedback, good or bad, I love it. But I've had a couple people reach out and say they've enjoyed the 15-minute podcasts. Does that mean they're better? I don't know, because feedback's weird, right? When someone says like, "Well, we really like the 15-minute episodes," there's maybe someone who just was like, "Well, I didn't know I was supposed to say I like the 40-minute rambling ones." Right? I don't know about that. The same happened this week, and thank you to the Patreon members over at patreon.com/Sean Widmer Podcast, where you could have on Monday saw the video of the bush that we're going to talk about outside my house. You could have seen the video of that. I filmed it. Which, speaking of, Michael, I'm still working on your Patreon issue. Working on that. I actually did a little research today, sent an email about it. So the ball is rolling in your direction. Patreon members also get trivia every week. Trivia came out yesterday. Speaking of feedback, we cut out the music round this week. We did 3 rounds of just trivia. If you liked it, let me know. If you hated it, you want the music back, let me know. The only way I'll know is if you tell me. So that's out there for the Patreon members. But thank you for supporting this show at patreon.com/Sean Widmer Podcast. It means a lot. The other thing I always appreciate is a 5-star review on iTunes. And if you leave a 5-star review, we start the podcast off right here with your review. So it can be whatever you want. It doesn't actually have to be reviewing the podcast. This is your chance to kick it off with whatever tomfoolery you want to talk about. All right. So there was no 5-star review since the last episode. And October 1st is still our last one. So it's been a minute, half a month without a 5-star review. Oof. But that means I have to come up with a shout out, which I will do. And I'll give a shout out to my buddy, Miles, from the Miles Fafcast. All right. Miles had an episode of his podcast about maybe a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago. I forget when it was. I wrote this down and I've been meaning to talk about it. And Miles had an episode where he did the 5 things he thinks you should own if you own a home. 5 things you should own in your home. Sorry, Miles, I'm butchering what your exact title of it was, but it was. I thought it was good. One of the things he mentioned is something I wrestle with in our house. And I was like, doggone it, Miles, you're right. Miles said you need to own a really good set of pots and pans. I could not agree more. A good set of pots and pans is great. You're going to use them like crazy. They're wonderful when they're working right. And then I went upstairs and I was like, I don't have those. Now, this is going to be offensive to my wife, my mother-in-law, and I'm sure plenty of others. We have KWAYI pans. 2 things. 1, they're super expensive. So I'm just going to get out in front of that and say, I'm not taking that into account. They suck. KWAYI pans suck. All right. For those of you who have them and like them, I don't know what you're doing. I think the reason people like a KWAYI pan is you use it, it destroys itself, and then you get an order out. So maybe that's the allure of them. But they're advertised as, these pans they don't have, Teflon. So they don't have that toxin. They're non-toxic. They're not poisonous. Well, they don't stick. And if you put some oil in it and you really do this and that, go ahead, cook some eggs. Go out right now, KWAYI people, and cook some eggs in your KWAYI pan. And then go enjoy finding some kind of jackhammer to try to get the eggs off of your KWAYI pan, because that's the only way you're gonna clean them. The steel wool doesn't clean it. Soaking it, you could soak it for an eternity until the metal is gone, and there will still be somehow egg stuck to something in your life. It's just, they're terrible pans. And I always tell my wife, like, can we just get some pans? She's like, No, these are non-toxic. That's what makes them special. And I'm thinking in my head, my grandmother, my 90-year-old grandma, spent her entire life cooking on these, quote, toxic pans, right? That groups like KWAYI, all of these pans that want to use all the buzzwords to make you organic, non-GMO, hyperallergenic, non-toxic pans. They use all the buzzwords so that you buy them, and they're like, yeah, well, they're non-toxic. My grandma's 90. She cooked every day on these toxic pans. At what point do the toxins kick in? At 100? Because if that's the case, I sure as heck don't want to have the non-toxic ones. I'm not looking to live past 100. So I need to maybe start working on the toxic pans. But I just laugh. All the people that I know, it's like my grandma and people of that age, they cook on these Teflon pans, and they're old and fine. But here I am scraping eggs off of my KWAYI. Well, what am we doing? I'm sticking to 15 minutes because my voice is hurt. I'm trying to battle back, and I wasted 4 minutes whining about KWAYI pans. If KWAYI wants to sponsor this podcast, I will flip my opinion, and I will tell you they're the greatest pan that I own because they do look awesome. That is one thing they've got going for them. Oh my goodness, they look superb. And we can't do pan talk. I already did pan talk, but just don't tell me like, well, chicken and eggs, like those proteins, they latch on to the pan. I want to cook. I just want to cook. I don't want to have to worry about all these rules of like, well, you need to have this heat level and this amount of oil or this kind of oil. I just want what a Teflon pan does for you. I want to crack an egg, put it on the pan, and then it just flips it, and I don't need to worry about all these extra rules. Give me the toxins. Feed me the toxins. Okay, I'm recording this late because I'm trying to stay healthy. No, because I had game night tonight. Mike and Robin came over. We played games, and when he left, I was like, I love hanging out with Mike and Robin, but I love the Harris brothers, my buddies Mike and Marcus, and I hadn't talked to Marcus in forever. So Mike left, and I called Marcus to check in and see how he was doing. 3-hour time difference, so midnight here. And it was a good time for him to answer. And we talked for 50 minutes. It was great catching up. And one of the reasons why the phone call was so long is because Hoops is back. And it's here. For him in Spokane, this is kind of when pickup basketball really starts going on the gyms in Spokane because it's getting cold. So everyone's looking to play hoops inside. So Marcus has got a couple of really good hoops runs going on. I need to get back to hoops here in Lexington every week. I'm actually excited tomorrow on Wednesday, the day this comes out, Wednesday and Thursday. I'm helping my brother-in-law with some basketball tryouts here for the team he coaches. I'm very excited for that. Hoops is back, but the NBA is back. College basketball is back. In fact, Wednesday night, I have my fantasy NBA draft with Marcus and Mike, neighbor Steve, and a bunch of other guys that we do our fantasy basketball league with. And I'm real excited for it. So that's late. I got the number 1 pick. I'm going to take Wemby. I'm going to have Wemby on my team this year. It gives me a great reason to watch the Spurs. I'm excited. But I love hoops. I'm so glad it's back. It fills me up. It's, when I see college football fans get excited, I'm not a big college football guy, but I always think when college football starts, I'm like, look, there's a lot of excited people. That's how I'm going to feel in a month when the NBA starts. And that's where I'm at right now. So, yeah, this long call with Marcus. I don't know if he was trying to talk me out of Wemby so that maybe Wemby could drop to him in our draft, but that's where I'm going this year. I'm very excited about it. And I need to start getting out there and playing more. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. Basketball is my favorite thing. It will always be. It always has been. One of the things I wrestle with, and, again, go to the comments, seanslife.com. You can comment there. I actually would love the comments on this because I'm very opinionated about it, but I'm also not shut down to listening to other thoughts because I'm sure my opinions are very skewed one way and there are other opinions that are skewed far on the other side, and I'm looking maybe for the middle ground. But I worry about today's day and age. I've got kids. I've got 3 kids. I've got Olivia, Huck, and my man Woods. And maybe one of them, 2 of them will be interested in sports. I worry about how sports are for youth right now from where my standing is. I just mentioned basketball is my favorite thing in the world. I would shoot every single day if I could. I would play basketball every day. If I could play basketball, I'm 42 years old, going to be 43 next week. I would play basketball every day. It is my favorite. And so I look around at youth sports in America and I'm like, there's a lot of sports available and kids play a lot of sports. And my daughter has been, this is what really got me thinking about it. My daughter has been signed up to play basketball, which I'm excited about. But there's this big part of me that as much as I'm excited about it, when I was a kid, we had high school or our school's sports programs. And that's the team I played on. And that was my organized basketball. Now, when I got into high school, I was on another team in the city that we played outside of my school. And it was like the select team for our area. And it was really fun. I loved it. But I was in high school. But at a young age, I built my love of basketball from me. I didn't get signed up for a lot of leagues. My parents didn't it's not force, but didn't throw me into a lot of sports. They let me play my sport during the season. And then if I wanted to be in love with it, I had to find my way to be in love with it. And where I think that left me is where I'm at today, where I have this wildly passionate love for basketball because I created it. And it wasn't created by league after league after league after I'd playing in a tournament. And I'm always going, there was, I remember Jay back in Spokane. I felt like he was at a tournament all the time. And I'm not saying it's wrong. See, I'm not saying it's wrong. But I look back at life and go, I'm kind of glad I wasn't in the tournament all the time. I wasn't going to make the NBA either way. And I'm left with great high school memories. I loved high school basketball. I loved the memories of seeking out pickup games on weekends, riding my bike around to different courts, finding out where guys were playing and playing pickup basketball on the weekends on my own accord. I loved that. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it as much as I loved a lot of the organized basketball that I played. And it was me building my love for it. And again, now I'm 43. I didn't get burnt out. I want to play every day. I would still roll the ball out. So this is kind of what I struggle with kids sports right now, where I see so many tournament after we've got 8 practices today. My in-laws, my nephews, they have games. They have like 4 games of Saturday. And I'm like, that's cool. I love sports. They get to play sports, but are they getting to build this love themselves? And I want my boys to have that. I want my girl to have that. I want them to, if they want to love basketball, build that love. I don't always want to have to roll the ball out for you. I want to see you go to the garage, pick it up, and go out and shoot hoops somewhere. Okay. 15 minutes. We got 2 minutes left. So I guess Kelly's What Are You Into is going to have to be the bush.
Kelly's What Are You Into?
I'm so bad at house projects. Oh, man, I'm so bad at it. If you are a Patreon member, I forget what tier, you can see the videos. And you can see on Monday, I posted a video of the bush that I'm struggling with. I had a situation where there's a bush in the side of our house that was small when we bought the house. And I didn't expect this to happen. But in Kentucky, everything grows like crazy. In Spokane, I couldn't grow anything. Every bush I planted or had in Spokane was dead. All of them. And I actually had a sprinkler system in Spokane. I do not have one here. Everything in the ground at my house here it just grows like crazy. Flowers, bushes, trees. The climate is just built for it. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to really pay attention to much. It's amazing. But I had this little bush, and now it was just blowing up. And I could feel it getting out of control, but I'm like, I don't know what to do. Well, it got to the point where it was growing into where my neighbor's yard is. And so in between our houses, we have like the middle part that is his property, my property. And I don't think it was all the way tore into his property yet, but we were about a foot away. And this was maybe about 10, 12 feet off my wall. That's how far this bush had gone out, like 10, 12 feet. It was out of control. So I didn't know what to do with it. So I'm thinking, scissors aren't good enough. They just aren't. Machete, I don't have a machete. So I thought, well, what if I get hedge trimmers? I guess those are things. So the kids and I went out Sunday. We ran errands. We found a hedge trimmer. And I came back excited to try to, I don't know, do what to this bush that was just overtaking the side of my house. But of course, I get the battery charged. It's an electric hedge trimmer. I'm going to start trying to cut this thing back, not knowing what to do. My neighbor, who is the one who I'm trying to keep this bush from going into his yard, he's really handy, man. His yard is great. He's just good at house stuff. He started washing his car. And I'm like, well, I'll just wait this out. He washed his car for an hour. An hour he washed his car. His car is in pristine condition now. But I didn't want to get after this bush while he was outside because I didn't want him standing there looking at me, judging me. Because I'm vain like that. So I wait for this. The second he's done, another neighbor comes out and is throwing a baseball in our little cul-de-sac with his daughter. And this is a guy who, if I'm out there, he's going to come over and make comments. And all I wanted to do was be by myself to butcher this bush without any input. So finally everyone left, and I tried my best to bring this bush back to normal size. Ooh, boy. I need some tips on that. I don't know what I did to it, but it doesn't look right. And I realized this bush that I thought was going to be pretty easy to cut through, the branches as I got in there were much thicker than the hedge trimmer said it was supposed to cut. I think the hedge trimmer was like an inch in diameter, and I was looking at these things like, well, that's a 3-inch branch. What am I supposed to do with that? So I'm struggling with this bush right now. This is my big house project and why I don't love it. So we talked about the chia pet on Monday. This is my kind of bush, a chia pet, which there's not a lot of action on this yet. We've been maintaining it. I've been following the instructions. I think it's going to be a week or two before we potentially see growth. I'm doubting it right now, but I can't get this chia pet to grow. My inside plant that I want to sprout out and grow like crazy, nothing. Meanwhile, outside, this thing that I just want gone, it's out of control. So I've now cut it back a little bit. I need to cut it back more. I ran out of time Sunday, so I needed to get back in there and go after it some more. But I think at some point it's just going to run in. I'm just going to have a bunch of sticks growing out of the ground. Is that a thing? I hope it is, because that's what it's going to look like. At that point, if I'm the neighbor, I'm like, he might have been irritated when it was growing into his property, but at least then it was all leaves and green and luscious. Now when he looks out of his window, he just sees a bunch of sticks growing out of the ground with like 3 leaves that I'm probably going to trim off next time I hit that thing. So it's me versus the bush. Wish me luck. I got to go back out and try to whittle it down some more. We'll see what happens. Let's do some comments and get out of here. Kelly over on, not from Kelly's What Are You Into, but Kelly McGillis over on Sean'sLife.com was trying to figure out how the commenting worked, I'm assuming, and just typed his name, Kelly McGillis. So that's the comment. Kelly, hello. He messaged me on Facebook the other day, I think. I do not check Facebook. I got an email notification that said I had a new message. I don't check Facebook Messenger. So it's in there. I hope whatever you said, Kelly, thumbs up, dude. Thumbs up. I check it like once every 2-3 weeks. I'll get to it and I'll respond sometime. Over on Spotify, Yvonne said this. I was going to say the same thing as Roberta. Honey and lemon tea. It's hard being the old man, old lady saying no. Yes, it is. Then you get to be a grandparent. Rest that voice. Thank you, Yvonne. We're going to rest it. God, we went to 20 minutes. I wanted it to be 15 today. Ugh. All right. Comment about sports. Go over to Sean'sLife.com. Comment on Spotify. Comment on YouTube.